Hi, and welcome to this week's episode of Doc School for to Learn How to Fight More Better. All right, let's start with some basic concepts here. Range, that's the range at which you fight, also the range at which you defend. We're also going to talk shield tank versus armor tank. The easy way to figure out which one you have would be just to look at your ship, and I'll show you where to look here. But the gist of it is, if your shield is larger than your armor, then you're a shield tank. If your armor is larger than your shield, then you are an armor tank. In this case, we're going to look at my Caracal Navy issue, or we're going to try anyway. And we're going to look at attributes. So when we look here, our shield is 4770 and our armor is 2797. Therefore, the Caracal Navy issue is a shield tank. If you were to look at a Mauler is going to be an armor tank. But basically, the important part to note is just which one you are, because that's going to depend on what you're going to use to fit your ship with. And it's also going to dictate some of your tactics. So, like, for example, if I'm ever getting dinged into my armor, that's a bad thing. Okay, so on my Navy issue, I've got it fitted with armor boosters. And so anytime my armor's down and I've got enough capacitor left to pump it back up, I'm going to be pumping that armor back up, because I never want that shield to be completely empty. If that shield is completely empty, then my ability to tank is now basically gone. If you're an armor tank, then you really don't care about the shield too much. What you care about is the armor. So when the armor starts ticking down, the next thing that you're going to get into is your hull. And so, you're going to be spending your capacitor on armor repairs that are going to, keep that topped up while you've got the capacitor to do it. So, step one, figure out if you're a shield tank or an armor tank. That way you can fit something to top up your armor or your shield, respectively. If you're an armor tank, don't worry about the shield as much, worry about your armor. And if you're a shield tank, then shield is life. Next step is going to be range. That's the range at which you are effective in shooting. It is also the range at which you're not getting your tail kicked. And that's sometimes a little bit difficult to figure out. In general, when you're doing PvE, you want to stay out at range unless you're a brawler type ship that's going to, basically be able to take a licking and keep on ticking. The Vexor, for example, that you've been using, that is not a brawler. Okay, it might be possible to fit it as a brawler. I'm not really familiar with that, but I know that you can use it to fight at range, and that's going to be where you're going to make your money at. So let's just go to the board here, and then we'll look at a few things. So let's pretend that we've got a ship here, 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 ship here, ship here. Okay, and then you are way out here. All right, and let's say the distance between these, let's just call it 114 kilometers. All right, so your effective range is going to be something less than 114 kilometers. The reason that you are here instead of way in here is because you warped out at range when you warped into this anomaly or whatever. And the way that you do that is the same way that you set your orbit. So if we go back to the game here, and if we wanted to warp to something, anything, it doesn't really matter what it is. Instead of just tapping the warp button, if you hold the warp button down, you can decide what your warp range is going to be. So if we went to a celestial body here and we said warp and we held it down, this thing pops up. And if we scan our finger back, we can go all the way out to 100 kilometers, or we can go all the way into 0 kilometers. 0 is going to put us right in the middle of everything. 100 is going to put us at max range away from them. It's a great idea to just, especially while you're learning, to always just warp in at range, okay? That way, you're not in the middle of things having to figure out how to fight and then get range. You're already at range for the most part. That being said, if you've been in an anomaly for a while and you've had to warp out a couple of times to repair or whatever, the ships do tend to come to the point where you warped in at. Okay, so what I tend to do is I tend to flip-flop. So if I am fighting for a long time, and I've been fighting for 20 minutes or so, and all these ships have come to me at that 100-kilometer distance, then the next time I warp in at 0, okay, that makes them have to come all the way back. And then the next time I warp in at 100, and that makes them have to come all the way back again. And that way I'm not fighting too many ships all at once. So in our example here, if you're at 114 kilometers, now you need to figure out what your effective range is of your weapon. Sorry, I keep going back and forth, but that's just the way it's going to be. If we look at our primary weapon, for me it's going to be missiles. For you in the Vexor, it's going to be a drone of some sort. But we can look at the drone too, because I got one of those. All right, so if we push on our missile launcher and we hold it down, we're going to see that our missile range is 38.37 kilometers. My drone range for the Hammerhead is optimal range of 4.2 kilometers. So that might tell you something right there as far as the Vexor goes. So if you're using Hammerheads and your optimal range is 4.2 kilometers, well, you're going to have a real hard time with them, at say 114 kilometers or even 40 kilometers. That's going to be hard for them to, do plenty of damage. There's also this bottom number here, which is the drone control range. That drone control range is the range at which you can control them. So max you could do is 20 kilometers, because this number here of the optimal range is their optimal range, not necessarily your control range for them. So they need to be within 4.2 kilometers to start beating on something. You have to be within 20 kilometers in this example. Your number is probably higher than that in order to control them. So in this case, your optimal range is going to be around 20 kilometers so that you can control your drones so that they can do damage. But let's say that number is a little bit bigger, because it probably is. Let's say that number is, we'll call it, let's just say 35 kilometers. All right. So there's a couple of ways that you can handle how to approach all of these ships that are here. One is you can target one of them. Let's say you target this one here. You can approach it, all right? And what it's gonna do is it's going to go in a straight line straight towards that ship. And that's the approach. The other option is the orbit. You could orbit it, and what it's gonna do is it's gonna try to take you kind of on a tangent line to that ship, kind of go in this direction. And then once it gets within that, 30-kilometer range right there, then it's going to fly in a circle around this ship. Now, the reason that can be kind of a problem is, well, what's behind that ship? Well, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 other ships back there. So if you get there and then you're going to try to swing around this way, well, now you're right in the middle of all these ships. So that's a problem. That means that all of them are going to be beating the crap out of you while you're trying to beat the crap out of that one ship. So you're going to be taking fire from probably all of them while you're only able to fire at one. So my approach to this is say, hey, okay, well, let's do an approach instead. Either that or let's let them come to me. The come to me or the come hither approach, that's good for fighting against frigates. Because the frigates are faster than the cruisers and the destroyers and the battle cruisers and all that. So let's say that in this group of, however many ships, let's say that these 3 in the back are all frigates, okay? And they're faster than the other 4. What I'm going to do is I'm going to stay right where I am. And then these guys are all going to come try to attack me, all right? And they're all going to be faster than their buddies. So by the time they get to my optimal 30-kilometer range, then these other 4 are going to be, at, say 40 or 50 kilometers. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to attack this guy right here. And I might not even try to approach or orbit him, just because if I orbit him, then maybe it's going to put me here where I can, be attacked by the other 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to manually fly my ship this direction, okay? And that's going to make this range here that 30-kilometer optimal, all right? And then these guys are further away from me. And so while I'm beating on this guy here, I'm only taking damage from that guy. All right, and then once he's dead, then I'm going to go back and I'm going to go and take another angle this way. All right, and so I can start attacking this guy right here. And then when I'm done with that, then I'm probably going to orbit this guy because he's the only guy left. All right, and then once we've gone boom, 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 and killed those 3, rinse, repeat for these 4 here, okay? And those 4 are going to be slower than those frigates, okay? Now, let's talk about what to do if you get in trouble. Okay, so now let's say you get into trouble. All right, so let's say we've got a fast ship. All right, fast ship here. And I'm right here. And let's say we're at closer than our optimal range, all right? So let's say this guy's at 8 kilometers, all right? And he's kicking the ever-loving crap out of us. Now, one way that you can avoid this is if you realize you're getting the crap kicked out of you, you can warp out and come back, okay? But another way is, let's say, and my recommendation would be that you have one of these. I think I told you that already. But let's say you've got a micro warp drive and you have some capacitor left. The easiest way to get away from this guy is to flip your view 180 degrees. So look at the butt of your ship and then manually tap in front of you, double tap on the screen, and then pop your micro warp drive. What that's going to do is that's going to send you in this direction very, very fast, okay? And you'll see that 8 kilometer turn into freaking 20 kilometer or 30 kilometer or 40 kilometer really quick. All right, and that gets you range and lets you kind of reset on this guy who's kicking your tail. I'll show you how to do that here. Okay, we're not moving right now, so let's get moving. Here's our velocity. We'll kick it up to max. So let's say I am currently flying at another ship and I want to I want to go the opposite direction, okay? Then I'm just going to flip my ship around and then I'm going to double tap. Now you're going to watch my ship do a 180. Boom. So now I'm going in the opposite direction. And then I pop my micro warp drive. And you'll watch my velocity down here. It's 337, 338, 339, 340. Now watch. We just went from 340 up to, we're getting 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Yeah, so much, much faster. And you see those ships, just like the range is increasing drastically. All right, so now we've gotten further away. The other thing that you can do is, let's say a ship is following you, but they're slower than you and they're not catching up, but you kind of want them to catch up because you want them to get in that effective range. So if you're looking up, at these ships and say, one of these ships that's at 52 or 53 kilometers, and instead of seeing the number count down, so instead of going from 54 to 53, it's going, 54 to 55 to 56, then just crank your speed down. Go here and go maybe like half speed. That's 56%. That'll give them some time to catch up to you. And then when you see that number start counting up, then find a speed where you're kind of just staying right in that optimal range. And then you're just going to keep pummeling them. And then hopefully, if their range is not the same as yours or better, then they're going to be not able to touch you at all. So you get to beat on them while they don't get to beat on you. All right. I think that covers the basics of maintaining your distance, um, and what your effective range is. Trying to think of what would be the next lesson here. I guess it's probably going to be how to balance your capacitor with your shields or armor and your weapons and any other sort of like buffs that you have. So if we go back and we say, okay, left side of the screen, we got 3 rings. Okay, we got our outer ring, which is our on the left-hand side here, the outer ring of white. That's your shield. The middle one is your armor, and the most inner one is your hull. And then on the right-hand side, that's your capacitor. So for using the example of my Caracal Navy issue here, I've got all of these weapons that minimally draw. So let's do a quick anomaly here, and I can maybe show you something. Let's warp to this one. These guys aren't going to do much damage to me, so I can show you a few things. So in my case, 3 of these things I'm not really going to use much if I'm at range, which is what I'm going to be doing. And those are the mid slots. Mid slots, just there's nothing that you can put in a mid slot that you can fight at range with. So you probably don't even have to worry about fitting anything there. It's only if you're fighting at really close distances. Okay, so I've got 3 guys here. They're all shooting at me. Let's say I wanted to go shoot back. I'm not going to because I'll destroy them in one shot. But just as a for instance, when I pop this full duplex ballistic control system, I just lost 88% on my capacitor. And if they were like really beating the crap out of me, I could also pop on an armor booster. And you're going to watch this thing tick down. It's going to tick down by somewhere between 6 and 8% each time that thing bumps up. And that's going to give me back 284 shield. Okay, so I can get back 284 damage every time that pops. Now I'm really getting my butt kicked. Okay, so I'm going to pop on the other one. Now I'm getting 284 times 2 back. And each time, each one of those ticks. But you see how fast my capacitor is going down. Oh no, now these guys are getting real close. They're within 10 kilometers. I'm healing, I'm healing, I'm healing. But now I want a boogie. So maybe now's the time to go ahead and pop that micro warp drive, and then I can get out. Okay, so let's say, oh yeah, I need to shut those off. Let's get it range and pop that micro warp. Oh crap, my micro warp drive requires 203 units of charge, and the capacitor only has 92. Okay, so I can't warp out. So the point is, don't let your cap get all the way down before you decide to boogie. My general rule of thumb is, whenever I'm at, like, let's say that we take however much capacitor I have left, along with however much of my shield I have left, if those are roughly about 100%. So if I'm at 50% of my shield and I am at 50% of my cap, that's a good place to be. But anytime I'm below that, then I say, okay, we might need to think about, getting out or getting some range. So basically, when you start out fresh, you're at 200% because you've got 100% of your shield and you've got 100% of your capacitor. So you can use up, half of that in fighting. And then once you're at that, that's kind of your, hey, warning. You might want to start getting some range or think about going and popping into a station to repair or might just want to, get out to like one of the planets and rest for a bit. And then I'll show you kind of the what I'm talking about ranging. So on let's say this Reaper here that's at 26 kilometers, I want to get close to him. So let's take a look and see where these are at. All right, so that one is right there. And this one is the middle one, and this one is the one on the left. Let's say I just wanted to get at this guy. What I would do is I would go and move my screen and then double tap here. And then we're going to just go and we're going to hit a course that is kind of along his side, but away from the other ones a bit. And I'm not getting there fast enough either, so let's pop on the micro warp and just watch how quick this distance melts. See, now he's fast too, so no, he's going the opposite direction, wrong way. Okay, let's go back and get him again. Who can we get? Let's see. This guy here, maybe. Boom. And I can go and approach him. Now let's say I want to orbit. Let's orbit him at, say, 30 kilometers. So what it's going to do now, because I told it to orbit at 30 kilometers, and he was only at 23. So now I'm going to go, and I'm going to boogie in the opposite direction, and I'm going to make a turn. And we're going to go, okay, we're going to keep firing at him. We're going to do a big 30-kilometer loop around this guy. And we're going to keep doing it. That's kind of how that works. All right. Now, let's say, let's approach this guy. And we'll get up real up close and personal with him. He's going to want to keep shooting at me. Oh, hey, Kale's on. I need to give him his ship. All right, so we're at 0 kilometers from this guy. We're just up there giving him a kiss. Now I want to say let's turn around and get away from him. But let's go slow. So I'm going at 21%. He clearly wants to have a little bit more range because he's still ranging out. I get the feeling that these things want to be at like 10 or 11 kilometers. So we can figure out what their speed is based on when we start getting distance on them. Because like I said, it looks like they want to be at somewhere around 10 to 11 kilometers. So we're not gaining any distance, so let's go kick up to 52%. So we're still staying at 9 kilometers. That hasn't gotten any bigger. So clearly their speed is faster than 107. Hold on a minute, it's clicking up. Their speed should be somewhere around 180 or so, but let's click it up again. See what happens. Now that we're up at like in the 220s, can they keep up? Okay, so the distance, it looks like it's kind of slowly climbing at 229 meters a second. The one Reaper's gone to 14, the other one's gone to 10, and this one's going to pop up to 12 here in a second, I think. Yeah, 15, 11, 12. Okay, so we're going a little bit faster, just a hair faster than they are when we're going about 230 meters a second. So at this speed though, I can keep them in. I mean, it's not ticking up fast; it's ticking up slow. So I can keep them in optimal range for a long time, and just the whole time I'm just beating on them, beating on them, beating on them. And then if I needed to let them catch up a little bit, then I could just crank my speed down a little more. That will give them a chance to catch up. And that's kind of how you keep them in that optimal range. And you don't ever want to be in a situation where you have too many ships beaten on you at once. You got to try to kind of divide and conquer. Now I have a custom setup here for like if I'm doing a mission. Um, in which it always has any stations that are available on the screen. Let's say, I'm getting my butt kicked. So I am going to be repairing my shields, and as I repair them, my capacitor is going to go down. All right. Now let's just pretend for a second that my shield was all the way gone. And let's pretend it's at like say 40% of the shield. So I got 40% shield, and I've got, less than 50% of my cap. At that point, I'm going, okay, I might hang around for a while to, make sure I'm going to kill at least one of these ships rather than boogieing out. But if I'm just still getting pummeled, and that capacitor is still ticking down, then what I'm going to do is I'm going to dock, pop my micro warp on. That'll get me up to speed quicker. And then, they're still hitting me, but my capacitor is not gone yet. And then before my capacitor is completely gone, I've warped. So, and then I'm going to be safe at a station. Anyway, I think that's long enough for a first lesson. It kind of gives you the basics. If you have any questions about it, then just get with me. I'll be happy to answer them.